All right, morning, and welcome back to another round of Steel Connect webinar. I'm Rocky and your host today to talk about steel and building related topics. All right, before we start, as usual, if you have any questions, do drop it in the Q&A box on the side. So this is how it looks like if you are joining us on your phone. And just a reminder for our fellow architects and engineers, if you wish to claim for your LAMP CPD points or BEM CPD hours, please stay through the entire webinar. And I'll share the QR code and links of the survey form at the end of the webinar. Okay, and you may submit your LAMP and BEM membership number via the survey form. All right, so let's start with today's topic, which is Penang Digital Library, where spatial transformation for urban heritage. So for this topic, we are honored, and I'm honored to have invited the guest speaker today. Let me give an introduction for our speaker today. So architect Tan BU is the principal architect of BU Tan Architect, in short called BETA, right? So of course, architect Tan has had over 18 years of architectural experience in her diversified portfolio. And she had her formative career years in Singapore, joining a renowned tech firm RSP Singapore. And of course, she returned to Penang in 2006 with this strong design portfolio and became the senior associate at Veritas Architect, right? And in there, she spearheaded various proposals of concept design, master planning, and project management for both local and international clients. And afterward, architect Tan also spent 8 years in a fast-track developer company as a head of design, where she oversaw completion of 8 luxury high-rise projects in KLCC, Damansara, Penang, ranging from high-rises that are ranging from 38 to 60 stories high. And she formed her own boutique practice afterward to pursue her belief in honest architecture. And she believes that good architecture is possible regardless of scale, budget, and complexity. So in 2019, the practice that she founded became the youngest firm to win gold in PAM Award 2019 under the category of alteration and addition. For the highly acclaimed so-called Penang Digital Library 2, titled Library in the Park. So BETA was also featured in Architecture Malaysia magazine as an emerging practice in Malaysia in the year 2019. So without further ado, let me invite architect Tan, and I'll hand over the stage to her.
Thank you, Rocky. Morning, everyone. I'm really humbled and privileged to be here. Greetings from Penang. I must say I'm very impressed with the turnout. We have a very good crowd here today. So thank you for making the time to come online to hear my sharing on our little pet project. I think Rocky is too generous on the lengthy introduction. Okay. So what I would like to share today is mainly on the journey of architectural transformation that my practice has gone through. And this is a very unique project. When the project came to us, it was none of its kind that has been done. So kind of like a rare typology. And a little bit of about my overall overview. I know Rocky did read the whole profile, but I wear many hats. I see a lot of new names. I suppose are from engineering background. I wear many hats. I'm architect by training. I have kids, I have family, and I also teach in University Science Malaysia. I also run my own event, Pecha Penang, 4 times a year. So I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity to be here at this platform. For today, I'll be wearing the hat of a professional architect, where I will share this whole uh, journey, a little bit of my personal journey as well. I started my practice after many years, probably was it 16, 18 years in consultancy, and overview of my personal portfolio. Before my uh, own practice, I spent 8 years completing this high-rise project. Some of you in KL may identify. And after this really intense 8 years, I felt I've seen literally all large-scale technology, including the earlier um, uh, time of my career doing international work. And I decided to venture out to look for something more meaningful. And the purpose of doing starting my own practice is in the hope of uh, creating architecture that I truly enjoy and believe in. And in simplified in 3 words, that I fervently feel architecture should be honest. Architecture should be honest with ourselves and with the client, with the site. Uh, should be humble and respect in terms of respect nature, respect site, meaning architecture is not everything. And we are always buildings are second to nature. That's my personal so-called philosophy. So that whole history of my profile before I started my practice literally sums up the scale of work that I was accustomed to, that I was have grown and become very skillful in, is to handle large scale projects like this 8 Gurney in Penang. One condominium is 10,000 square feet. This is one typical block of 38 floors facing the sea. This is in Gurney Drive. And those days, that was the magnitude of work that I'm involved in. I was HOD of a large developer firm in Penang. So there was about 25 team members in the design department that I did. So from this magnitude, I came out and I was searching, I guess, and we were very fortunate to be commissioned with this first 2 projects, Penang Digital Library, Penang Harmony Center, happened back to back. But today, I wanted to share this on Digital Library. And just look at it. I told Rocky that this is 1-to-1 scale. Engineers would know that this is, 38-story versus 2-story. And from that Super XL become Super XS, yeah, in other words. And I never compared until I was preparing this slide, and I felt that my high-rise knowledge has made me a better designer when I handle heritage building, when I was giving the old buildings a second life, so to speak. So digital library, library in the park is actually phase 2 in the state government's planning. And the location is in Penang Preschool for those who are not familiar, probably from KL. And the site takes up the corner of Penang Preschool. This is first one, an existing 2-story heritage bungalow, which was converted into a very simple transformation. This was taken up under the state initiative, like a pilot program. And within a year, this phase 1 library without books was crowded and literally overwhelmed with students coming to study, and the state even upgraded, extended opening hours to 24 hours, and still the crowd came. So they decided that probably that justifies uh, building a purpose-built library of phase 2 to complement, to reinforce, to reinstate this initial pilot project. And so when we were selected, when our design proposal was selected and we were commissioned. So we were really over the moon. And the site selected is a beautiful corner lot. I'll show you later. And the brief given by the client was quite simple, quite straightforward. That it was obvious the demand was we need more additional reading spaces. You need a hall so that it can actually anchor the buildings with event. So that was literally the basic two core requirement. And Penang Digital Library, to us as architects, we felt that this is the best opportunity to redefine how library should be, library of the future. And we see many international libraries being built in the recent years in the world, but probably not many, probably none that has so boldly built new buildings, but purpose-built with zero books. And the whole idea of digital library is for this phase two, we actually outlined this social agenda because after doing so many high rise, I felt when we're doing public buildings, social agenda is really important. So we envisioned this digital library to be a community hub, a learning area, events, and a place for inclusive for all ages, means family could come and stay for classes and hang out till afternoon. So that was what we literally wrote on the wall before we started off our drawing board. So site inspiration take us to our ideas and our intuitive inspiration. My first site visit, this is the building that was there awaiting, existing mansion, 2-story. This was used to be residence for the school headmaster, Penang school headmaster, and subsequent the teachers that will live here, and eventually to become a agency office. But when we visit the site, the building is left vacant, and certain portions were not in very good shape. But yet, the building sits on this beautiful 1-acre large compound. Literally, you can hear sounds of birds chirping, and despite the main road buzz of the traffic, it is amazingly quiet. So that moved me, and I felt it's literally really no question about it that it's really the ideal place to do a library of sorts, like a reading heaven. So this is view from the balcony looking down. Again, there's trees and shade everywhere that you look out, like a commanding view. So at this point, I decided two things, which became the anchor, the driving design decision that became so non-negotiable throughout the whole process. Number one is I decided that the building must stay. This existing mansion, no matter how bad the condition, we need to rescue it, we need to keep it. And number two, that lush greenery must stay. Mean no trees shall be cut. All these tall trees will remain as it is, and whatever new buildings that we build, we'll just have to work around it. And that was quite a naive and intuitive decision, because at first site visit we haven't even got a survey plan of sorts, but it was really intuitive. So very quickly I worked around the two design decision: keep the house, keep the mansion, keep the trees on the right, and we just have to work out what's in between. I always believe in designing simple architecture because it ties in with my personal mission philosophy that architecture should be humble. So especially when we are complementing an existing building. So the important priority is the existing mansion must take center stage. The new annex will come in as an extension of it. And then over here, we swing back to form like a cradling effect, and that itself created a central lawn in the middle. Very straightforward. I did this in one evening, and off we went to present. But the idea was so strong, and it was not difficult to decide. And so this existing building, existing mansion, we call it, became the digital library. And we expanded 2 blocks, literally like an annex wing, 2-story, stagger down to a single-story community hall on the right, keep the central lawn empty. So that was my decision. And and then tuck a restaurant at the back, and the servant quarters in Penang. A lot of these bungalow comes with servant quarters to say. So that's where the servants help us stay at the back of house and prepare meals for the owner. So the servant quarters become the cafe, and we created like the pockets of garden at the back, and that's really it. Oh, and then we wanted to introduce a public realm, like a public avenue, and we coined it Wisdom Street, literally like a indoor streets. And what about respect that we talked about earlier on? So when we did this, again, it comes back to say, we talk so much about having to respect site. And when we were dealing with this, it was no question that this new annex had to should relate to the first phase. This is the first phase, this existing digital library. Just across the service road, the existing mansion that we converted to, and we decided that the new annex should be oriented to literally face the original digital library, phase 1. Not many realize it, but there's this quiet homage, quiet tribute that pay respect to, like, kind of like aligning and respecting the buildings around. So I'm quite old school. We use softwares like SketchUp, and we have also gone for Twinmotion rendering, Lumion, and all that. But we did a model because I just wanted to see how the spaces that I envision happen right on site in the right orientation. So at the very beginning, we knew for a certain amount of certainty that the Wisdom Street is shaded through the day because morning sun comes on the right of the picture and the left is the western sun. So that itself positions another set of rules. I make my own life difficult by setting a lot of rules for myself. And once the rules are set, I literally cast in stone and try to work around it. So and we observe that the shadows of this tree will be able to have this beautiful effect on the roof. And that's when we move on and gave us confidence that this is it. This is going to be great when it builds up on site. And there's a lot of shadow watching on site just to be sure that we are catching the shadow the way we want. So this shows the entire row of trees, probably 100-year-old or more. And we literally kept them untouched. And when we design, we carefully dance along this row here, gave a good buffer, and then that's where we built the hall. And all this so-called design decision was no pressure from the clients. It was literally self-driven. We initiate this whole internal discourse of design strategies and planning, and we are really grateful that the client just gave us, all the support that we need. And so the design was fixed, cast in tones to embrace this empty central lawn. It's deliberate. Many friends came and asked me, why is it, just lawn? I'll show you why later on. So, and a glimpse of ground floor, uh, the annex mentioned served mainly as a reading space. Okay, it connects to a Wisdom Street at the back. If you can see here, 7, 5, 6, 7 are like a cafe, a bakery at the servant quarters. So this project is a little bit more of a addition and alteration. And new annex is a brand new building erected just to complement the existing mansion. So upstairs is quite straightforward. New annex is second floor on the first block. The hall remains at one floor. There's a reason to it, which I'll show you in later photos. And the balcony that we saw earlier, number two, was converted into like a discussion space. So if some of you have visited this in Penang, well, I look forward to your reviews and questions. Facade design, again, I put certain rules in our design. Say it cannot be higher than the original building. The proportion has to be tweaked till it doesn't overpower the existing mansion. Even deciding the height itself, I was looking at the CAD file and we were tweaking until it looks good before we went ahead. So in this is our schematic. As you can see, the 3D file became literally from a basic messing, and it was developed over time throughout design. Throughout construction, we were still doing detailing in 3D because I always want to simulate how the design will look like even before it goes to site. Because with the years of high-rise construction, I knew if we don't do enough detailing, we don't do enough careful planning, there'll be 1001 clashes happening on site. So, and I'm old school, but yet I'm happy with good old SketchUp at that point of time. And the SketchUp that we built are accurate to site, to the point that we are glad to see when it's complete. It's quite faithful to the original SketchUp file that we designed. So a little bit of a journey. So when the construction starts, construction completed in 10 months for this really fast track project. Started in 2017, and conditions of the mansion was, like I said, not in good shape. The timber truss infested with termites. The ceiling was still asbestos ceiling sheets used earlier those days, which we decided to change. And when we start to look at the structural of the house, we work with CNS engineer Arup. I worked with Arup for a good 10 years before I start my practice. So for this first public building project that we will commission, I wrote in Arup to work with us. And this is interesting to share because this drawing was drawn from our team. As an architect, I have become accustomed to structural design, where when we are doing detailing, I literally embrace the structural outlook in our 3D, in our architectural design. So in this case, our CNS engineer decided that the best way to convert the existing timber platform to a platform that can cater 100 people, 6 person in a family to 100 person of public building. The best way is to reinforce the entire platform with steel members. So first cut was the steel design came from our engineer, and then because I understood how members work, and we took out all the numbers and we streamlined again, and then we went back and forth with Arup to negotiate that, can you do the perimeter like in B4? Can you do RHS 200 at 120? So we were already talking about sizes because we wanted those steel trusses to be exposed later on. And the reason why we did this is we wanted to design the structural members again, because when we look up, that is our ceiling treatment. So the members in purple, those are 150, 75. So we knew these are going to be our aesthetic element. And so I'm very grateful that my young junior assistant was very diligent to draw this one by one up to the construction sequence of the truss, and the posts are all shown here. So this is how behind the scene of our design coordination. And we are glad that the engineers that have been working with us on our recent few projects, they know how we are always a little bit more all encompassing. So we talk about M&E, aircon planning, beginning, CNS as well. So the timber roof truss was also another stress that we went through, because before the construction began, we couldn't ascertain the amount of damage. So what we did was we assumed a certain percentage. But when the contractor start to go up and bring down the truss, uh, quite a few was not in good shape. And so we actually had to go through this replacement sequence. This is where the steel member starts to come in on the floor, and this is how it looks like at the bottom. And you can see that our structural 3D planning helps a lot. We will bring the 3D that we draw, share it with the contractor, and to kind of like have them get some ownership of their work. So as you can see, the outcome is the ones trusses that you see is in fact similar to the original timber truss, but it's actually steel. Like grandma got new steel bones, and if not explained, many would quickly may just think that this is the original, but it's actually still members below there. And we are really pleased and happy with the outcome of our efforts of restoring the old building, and how we carefully plan framing of views, and the central lawn that you see here becomes such a strong contrast to the lush trees in the background, because we wanted to be humble. We wanted to play the passive presence on site. The facade treatment that we chose was very clean, linear lines, nothing too busy. And this is the central lawn that I spoke about. So the tall trees, the tall trees got a bit of a pruning during construction. They got a good haircut, and but nothing is touched. And we are so glad that the birds, the chirping birds, came back after the library opened, and it's now back to this whole garden, breezy ambience with very peaceful chirping birds, and it's really completes the whole ambience of the reading space. So uh, and this is where morning sun shines in, and those shadows that you see are shadows from the existing trees that from the very beginning I envisioned that I wanted that shadows to be cast. And that's the very reason why the central lawn must not have trees. And I'm really happy that that vision from beginning is coming, it materialized quite nicely. So this is also a very interesting photo of many meanings. If you look closely, the central lawn, I love this the best part, because if you come to Digital Library, say at 8 a.m., this spot will be shaded till 10 plus 11. And we actually imagine, this is where the kids will run, the toddlers will roam free, our parents will sit on the deck, chilling out on a Sunday. But I guess after years that it's been open, everyone is very very preciously tiptoeing over the green lawn. And I wish, if I'm there, I said, go and run on the lawn. So, but the whole idea was to turn this into a public building, a friendly, welcoming lawn. And if you look closely at the glass reflection, it reflects the phase one original bungalow onto the facade of the phase two. So that's a little bit of a trivia not everyone know. And so again, our efforts of meticulous planning of roof line, we were again decided very early on that this annex will have a flat roof outline rather than mimicking a pitch roof effect, because I felt the contrast will give prominence to the existing building. It's like a deliberate, opposite effect. And so uh, photos like this shows how we carefully plan every element. The blades were carefully distanced. Detail of the random lattice for the hall was calculated very carefully and controlled on site. The hall has a three-sided overhang corridor. And the best part is, again, this was pre-calculated, I knew, because when we designed the building to face the morning sun, we were like, fingers crossed, this effect will come out right. And we simulated, it was okay. And then when the building is complete, it was really exactly the way we wanted, even better. So the first photo on the left, sun cast in the morning, and that's the shadow that you get. And the middle is like our traditional sundial, and I can tell, okay, this is middle is 1 o'clock sun, and then the one on the right is 5:30 ish, and that's the shadow that will pass. I've got like hundreds of this photo of different shadow. Never get one, never get two of the same shadow. So if you are a enthusiast of shadow patterns, you can go many times and challenge yourself. See, you can get two shadows taken 2 different days, and whether it looks the same. So this is a photo of my students. I like to bring my students to the buildings that I design because it creates such amazing impact of them seeing. Seeing is believing. I felt I don't have to speak so lengthy when I bring them to actual building, and they will just get, they understood right away. So this existing mentioned before and after, right? And the original space was a living space. So when we converted, I felt that, and we should pay tribute that it used to be a living space. So put in all the sofa, right? And the wing next to it, we could guess because we could tell where the kitchen was, and this space was next to the kitchen, and we knew that it would be where the dining area is. So dining area became dining table style, but reading space. We just spend a lot of time, trying to perfect our storyline. Um, and along the corridors, you can see at the key plan here, the shaded pink areas, those were actually corridors of the old bungalow, literally corridors that you can look out, or you can enter the room. So what we did was like a reversal. So the corridor was an open space. We converted it into a semi-enclosed. So this became like a booth, like a study booth, where students love to just slide in and have this sense of enclosure reading at the corner. So this is another view, and we put in literally all the reading positions that you can think of. Study corrals. I used to go to the library a lot, and I love how study corrals give you this sense of privacy. You can't see anyone, and nobody can see you. And so we created this study corral. Again, the client gave us free freedom to curate this, and this is the look of Wisdom Street. Also, we knew from right away that we wanted a photo frame. So when we designed the 3D, we knew we wanted a photo frame. We are glad that Arup supported us well on this vision, and we had a flat RC flat roof flying over with skylight. And before, originally, it was how this is. The single-story building is the 7 quarters. The left is the mansion, and it has this connection of a single story, which amazingly, I had that inspiration to do this flying roof there and then during the site visit. It just came, and I felt it was an idea that I should listen to, and I know we just ran with it. So that's Wisdom Street. And one of the whole biggest impact that the spaces in this digital library gave is bringing in natural light. You see, when you don't have bookshelves in so-called conventional libraries with books, you worry that the sun will damage the pages. So when you don't have a books, we literally open up the windows, let the sun come in. And I think most of my friends or visitors, the first impression when they enter is they felt this, oh, so much of light for a library. And after a while, they start to feel this great feeling of reading under natural light. So this is the foyer. We insisted on playroom. Some of my kids are in the photo. At that time, my kids were growing up, and if you can see the silhouette here at the bottom right, I actually got the heights of 3 different heights, measured it, gave to our designer. I said, oh, make sure there's this tree. because it represents three different stages of childhood. And our designer had these silhouettes of children running along this room, again for the fun of it. And when the building is complete, I got my children to line up at where their stencils were. So for now, they have outgrown their stencil, way too tall. And we used to make a joke that remember the digital library, that's you, because we stenciled their height, and now they are teenagers. So this is internal view looking out to phase one. We created this study book with natural timber tones, very muted shades, nothing busy. If you can look closely, those ceiling lights are not on during the day because we had this linear skylight. So the linear skylight was already there when we did the model. So when I look back, I can't believe how I did it, but the whole components of design just fall in very quickly after that first visit. We created the void so that the skylight will bring natural light down to ground floor. So a very small space, but literally all the natural lighting strategies that that we teach, that I teach, that we read from the textbooks are all in here. And that was one of the things that I felt teaching makes me a better practicing architect, because I felt I would just translate what I used to teach and put it in one building. So when my students visit, they could really see uh, the uh, the strategies from the textbook. I say, oh, this is how you do it. If you do a skylight, this is how you get it. And the skylight bounce off words of wisdom, dream, create, think on the ground, and at certain time of the day. And I thought that's again another magic and motivation for all of you to visit. Uh, I can give you a hint. You need to be there from like 12 to 1, where the sun is perfectly at the 90 degree above the building, and then it will bounce off the words on the floor. And we knew the shadow of the lattice will create this 45 diagonal angle, but the casting of the words was the bonus for us. And this to this day brings delight to myself and to many of my students who visit. One student came up and tell me that she was kind of like stuck in the library during a heavy storm and rain, and then as the rain was clearing, the drizzles created this psychedelic of colors bouncing internal in the space. I've never got to see that, but I thought, well, that's I guess it's rewarding to hear that journey of super mega project going to small projects. It's something rewarding that, and I thought this is what I want to do and continue to do more. So this is a window, bay window. I always thought there's something romantic about reading, very poetic about reading by the window. And I insisted that, it's too boring to have all reading tables and that. I insisted that we have to do it. And this is where you get to sit down, take off your shoes and curl up and read, write songs, and, do all this creative daydreaming there. Bathroom was not spared from our pursuit to detailing. Uh, and we experimented with cement render, and a key component was that I told myself we must have a garden concept. Okay, and this is a little bit of a hint of how it was. This was pre-COVID, and immediately within opening, it was always full seated, like full house. And that's where the bay window became the most favorite spot. And I think there's something nice about students, young our readers of all ages hanging out here and rediscovering the joy of reading. Wisdom Street also a favorite place for discussion. This is where you can discuss and argue. So and this next week, grab coffee and bakery on the next. And so I also add here a video, 2 minutes, just to show you transformation from beginning to end.
lebih laju,
better reading space.
boleh jumpa di library ni dan bincang.
A place to play.
Wow, here I am at the Penang Digital Library, a library in the park. This place has been transformed and it is amazing. I want to congratulate Ms. Tan, the architect, and the project team for transforming an old bungalow into Penang Digital Library 2. We have Penang Digital Library 1 over there, and this is definitely a milestone project for the Penang State.
So there you go, 2 minutes video. If you're still with us, thank you. And so that project got us a very unexpected recognition, PAM Awards and RIDA, and so we are really profoundly humbled with the recognition, and my life as a practitioner, as a teacher to these are my students, and that's what I can bring to our morning session today, and I hope it inspires young engineers, young architects out here. I can't tell your age all with the video off. What I tell my students is, I still believe that there is still good powers that we have as an architect, that we have the power to create good architecture, and good architecture can empower the communities and truly make a difference. And despite all the challenges that we have, with COVID disruption, and the nature, very complex nature of construction and practice, but if we dare to dream, the sky is the limit. And with that, I end my short sharing. I hope I'm still doing good time, Rocky. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah,
It's
back
worth
to you.
spending the time. Okay, thank you, Architect Tan. All right, so it was very insightful, personally for me. And of course, prior to this, I have prepared some questions which I personally am interested in knowing from Architect Tan. So yeah, let's get into the dialogue session. All right, so from what you have shared, Architect Tan, I think adaptive reuse project like this is not an easy task, right? Or at least not as easy as what people normally think. So my question to you is, what are the common challenges in this kind of adaptive reuse project?
The challenges for adaptive projects, adaptive reuse, usually is the structural integrity. I'm sure a lot of engineers here will agree, because most often is the original life of the building design, say residential. It was designed for a residential load, and the first thing to always consider is the structural loading, the strength, the health of the ability to cater the load. So that's the first one to look for. And a lot of times, the structural adaptation will involve a higher amount of cost. Okay, and other than structural, hidden elements is always there, kind of like a guaranteed surprise for every heritage building that I've so-called rescued. after a first few shocks, after nowadays I'm game for surprise. I am no, it's really a given that heritage projects will surprise you with hidden beams. You tear out walls, and then there are beams, curb, and all that. So I've learned along the years that there are things that you have to be prepared on. And then damage, hidden damage, and ceiling. All buildings tend to have asbestos ceiling, and that's where a good edition designer should always check if you want to do any conversion. Okay, Rocky?
All right, thanks. Yeah. So I have nothing to add. I think it's well said. All right. So on my second question is, in your view, what is the historical significance of these buildings? As you said, phase one and phase two, and paying respect to the site. So, what is worth? What was the significance of it that is worth putting the effort in restoring and also, transforming it into what it is right now?
Yeah. So I mentioned in our earlier sessions, Rocky, that I actually studied 2 years in Penang Preschool in Form 6. That's the only time they allow girls there. But I have brothers, I have relatives who are, true blue, all free. And I could really sense the whole pride of, about studying in Penang Preschool. And this building, I mentioned earlier that used to be a residence for the principal, or teachers, and it becomes a core tapestry of the school's history. And that's why it's without a doubt, I didn't have to even think twice when I visit the site. I said, oh no, this building has to stay, regardless, you know. And I still look back, I cannot believe I said that without thinking twice, but it's significant for that reason. And there's four of it duplicates in a row. And to me, this is the only one that's angled 45 degrees. And I felt libraries are, about stories to tell. And old buildings, definitely needs to be rescued, to be retained, because it forms part of the stories that we tell to our children.
So it seems like it has a personal linkage to whoever have studied there, and I think right now, it's now been renewed to whoever is using the space as their, study area or discussion area.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the old and the new, I guess. All right. So just now you have shared that in your design, and also earlier the challenges was in terms of the structural integrity. So what was the contribution of steel in this project?
Steel is one thing that we know. It gives you clean construction on site, and we were given this task that this project has to finish in 10 months. And I guess I was gung ho enough to agree. Also because a huge portion of it, because I have gone through 8 high-rise projects in like fast track development, because the developer I work with is all about fast track, and fast track seemed to be like my second nature. So when the first public building, oh, I want this fast track 10 months, and I was like, oh, okay, no problem, then we just figure it out. But it seems also very challenging. And so steel was decided because faster to mobilize, and it's cleaner on site, and because it's still within the school compound. So and we actually work with our group very carefully to make sure the steel has this quiet complement to the old building. So we have the columns carefully hidden where we want to be hidden. So from the outside, it doesn't look, like a crude industrial building. So steel was used mainly for efficiency, for control, and speed.
Yeah, I did pick up on your collaboration with our group's engineer, and I think what I appreciate most is your collaborative spirit that you share with your engineers, which I think is quite rare in this day and age, where I think we require more of understanding across these two disciplines, right? Where both architects and engineers should acknowledge and learn a bit of each other's work and how they can supplement each other in terms of skill sets and whatnot. So I think your approach of also design so putting a lot of inputs in terms of structure definitely has helped in terms of achieving a structure that works for this project. All right, so of course my last question would be about popularity of adaptive reuse projects, right? Especially in Malaysia. As I understand it, the approach of adaptive reuse has a certain element of sustainability in it. Can you elaborate in what aspect is adaptive reuse project attractive, and do you see it gaining popularity in Malaysia?
I think that's a very good question, Rocky. It's quite good that you raised this up because I think Malaysia has seen rising popularity in adaptive reuse in recent years. In Penang, it feels like it's a necessity because we just have so many of these heritage buildings around, and I'm happy to see that a lot of our fellow architects are equally growing in numbers who are passionate in saving these buildings and giving them better life. And friends in KL, like Shin, Rex KL, and projects like this will be important to raise awareness, to inspire more stakeholders, architects, designers to brave through that decision to keep the old, work around it, and turn it into an old gem into a diamond. I think it's picking up in popularity, and it's definitely a good sign for architecture in Malaysia.
Yeah. Yeah, I do see it picking up in Penang, where it's everywhere within Georgetown. Yeah. All right. So I guess that concludes our dialogue session, and of course, let's move on to the Q&A session. So just a reminder for those for participants who have not posted your question, you can post it in the Q&A box, and we'll get to it in the ascending order lah. Okay, so so architect, I'll read out the question to you, and if you have any inputs, feel free to just respond to it. Yeah. So the first question is from Surveyor Ng. So from NGBC. So what is the initial budget given, and what is the final contract sum? And also, what's the cost of IT work? Quite a lot of okay, so let's just break it down one by one. So what is the budget given, and the final contract sum? Would you have any figure?
If you Google up the press release, the official number is 10.8 million for the entire project. So the IT sum is included, and the IT provision goes to setting up server room, getting the digital reading platform up, and setting up Wi-Fi. Even for the outdoor areas, you can get Wi-Fi for reading, because we wanted reading everywhere, reading under the garden, under the trees. I wanted a hammock if possible, but towards the end, no hammock. But yeah, 10.8 was the official number.
Okay, yeah. So
does it look like 10.8?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot put a value to it myself. So yeah, I think it's worthless because we are preserving preserving history. I think there's no worth to it, because for each people, they would value it very differently, right? So yeah. Anyway, move on to the next question, also by Surveyor. How many contractors tendered for this job? How many VOs ended? So
Oh, very technical, Mr. Ng.
yeah.
It was I can't remember, but I think it was a open tender. I think we had, was it five or six? But it's definitely not a direct award. So there was a tender practice. Uh, we had a full team of consultants. And what's the other question? VO. Yes, there were VOs mainly because we kept everything within budget. Yeah, this is to answer the previous question. So the budget 10.8 was non-negotiable, means cannot add 1 cent, 20 cents. So the VO came because there were unexpected problems in the old mansion, and it kind of like shifts off the balance of the provision. So we have to cut back certain things. So you see that certain areas like in the washroom do not have tiles because downgrade that to give it to rescue the old house. So there were a lot of these instances to balance off the expenses. So there were VOs definitely. How many? I can't recall.
But I guess it reflected your earlier statement that there are surprises within adaptive reuse where it's normally not seen, you know,
Mm.
during the initial stage, and you will get a lot of surprises and do expect surprises, you know,
Mm.
during the project.
Mm.
Okay, so next is Mark. So his his or her question is that if I'm not wrong, there are steel roofing sheets used. How did you deal with sound insulation for the library, especially during heavy rain? Oh, I think maybe architect Tan, you can correct the statement. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
For this new annex, we actually designed RC flat roof. The roof of the hall, there was this idea of converting it as like a viewing platform, like really awesome view if you go up there at night. And then when so we actually designed it for a potential conversion to a viewing deck. But until now, I think stakeholders and the operators of the library felt still good as it is without allowing public to go up. So the roof of the hall is RC, and the annex was also RC flat roof. We didn't use any roofing sheet for this, but I mentioned to Rocky that we just completed Penang Digital Library in Alusta, and it has that flat roof meshing, but it's actually using low gradient roofing sheet.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
want to say for another day story.
Yeah, yeah. I think to correct the misconception or you know misinformation that it was using you know metal roofing for this specific building. Okay, so moving on to the next question by surveyor Ng. So, what type of timber species have been selected and used? I presume it is for the roof truss in the existing mansion.
Existing mention.
Yeah.
I think the contractor proposed the similar original wood that is used. So I can't recall at this point. Surveyor Ng. I'll probably get back to you when I have the actual timber species.
Mm, yeah.
Maybe I know Surveyor Ng.
From MGBC.
Yeah, a little of
Okay.
question here.
Yeah. Quite a lot of questions from surveyor. Okay, from Mark also. I think this is something that I'm also curious about. So, can you share a bit of how you did the disposal of asbestos, or rather dismantling of the asbestos material? What was the difficulty that you faced?
First to be able to identify asbestos, that's first. And we were very fortunate that we have a few roofing and ceiling specialists that assisted us. We work with UAC, and the GM was very supportive, assisted all the way on identifying the ceiling, and the removal disposal was done by the contractor, and the contractor was fully aware it's asbestos, and asbestos, as we all know, is carcinogenic in nature. Means even the powder of it is actually dangerous if it's inhaled. So we gave very clear instruction to contractor to ensure the dismantling was done properly. The workers are wearing proper masks for protection, and then properly wrap and dispose. Dispose where, I probably have to ask our contractor if Mr. Park wants to know. Our contractor, we work with this Jaya Mas, but now they have renamed to United Builders. And we are very happy working with them, and they were really diligent and able to see to details like this.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Architect Tan. Great. Okay. So let me pause here first. So for those who would like to leave and or to join another the other sessions of yours, you can go to our chat box and submit the survey form there. And for those who would like to stay and ask your questions or listen to our feedbacks, do stay until the end. We also will have the QR code for you to scan at the end. All right. So let's continue with our questions. Okay. So from Adi Asmi, during the designing stage, did you include consideration on the management of the building after it's been completed? So if so, how many percentage of thoughts were given to it? You're required to, yeah.
Okay. I think this is a very meticulous question, very careful person who have thought of this. So the consideration was literally from the beginning, because we worked with the operator, CMI. CMI from the very beginning already knew they're going to set up a team of librarians to run the place. So throughout the design, we have already started discussing about how many personnel will be in the mansion, how many personnel will be in the annex, and how the events will be run. So to answer your question of how many percent, I think probably 80%. There was a huge percent of it already being sorted, because we consulted the stakeholder on the usage. Because a lot of the ideas we propose from our own curation, but we had agreement before we start off. For example, the meeting rooms upstairs, and we actually plan it for a rentable concept. So access wise, it was planned in such that it's easy for supervision, means the librarians could see who's inside using the space, and that's why we designed it to be classroom. And then we also knew that the hall will be a form of revenue making for the operator, so we designed it at the corner, so events can be held there without doing much of a noise disruption to the reading space. So a lot of it was developed through a lot of consultation.
Yeah, I never thought to put a number to how much thought you would put into designing with management in place. I mean, after completion. So wow, 80% is quite a lot of effort in designing, also considering the management. I didn't know that. All right. Okay. So moving on to the next question from Surveyor. What is the GFA for the entire project?
GFA 16,000 square feet. Well, GFA 16,000 square feet for 10.8 million for 2-story, but we literally have like four kind of like the types of usage. We had a hall, we had a reading space, we had a cafe, like an all-day dining cafe, and then we had a garden, had the playground to deal with, and then we created the whole public realm. So there's a lot of component used in 16,000 square feet.
Yeah, I think it's a well use of space. All right. So I think looking at the time, we will end the Q&A session. So of course, any other questions that you would like to post, definitely you can post it privately in person. So we can get to your answer later on. All right. So of course, I think to wrap up today's session, I would like to just give my thoughts on what I've learned. So from what you have presented, I think it's not easy for adaptive reuse projects to always be acknowledged or to be appreciated, right? And it's always appreciated after the fact that it had been done, right? And of course, there's no denying in the efforts that is put into in transforming the space. And of course, it is been seen and felt by especially the community that is benefiting from it. Of course, I myself had a chance of visiting the place and had a sense of how the library is operating at during this time. And I think it's still being well used and well maintained at this stage. And I think what you have achieved personally, in my view, is that you have given an old building a new life, and I think you have successfully renewed its relevance, not just to the generation of people who see it as a house for the headmaster, but also a useful space for the current generation who are actually using. And as an engineer myself, I think I'm also very happy to see the collaborative spirit that you and your team have and possess with the engineers that you work with. And of course, it renewed my optimism for better building design in the near future. So with that, again, thank you, Architect Tan, for taking your precious time to share your experience with us, and also to our audience, right? And also for our participants and audience, thank you for joining and actively participating in our Still Connect webinar. All right, so it's been a pleasure for me to host this webinar today and learn a lot from our interactions. All right, so of course, to end, before we end also, if you have any ideas or any building designs with Steel or that you would like to share, look no further, please drop us an email at events@bluescope.com and let us know what you want to share. Okay, so again, this will be the last slide before we close out today's session. For architects and engineers who wish to get your CPD points or hours, please fill out the survey form, and also definitely remember to do the submit your LAM and PM membership number. So if you enjoyed this session also and think that it can be improved further, do share it via the survey form as well. All right, I'll leave the QR code here for another few minutes before the whole WebEx will end after this. All right, and definitely you can leave some feedback for Architect Tan through the survey form as well, and then we'll look through it later on after the session. Right. All right, so that's been fun, and thank you again, Architect Tan. See you soon.
Thank you, Rocky. Thank you, BlueScope, for having me. See you guys in Penang. Those who are visiting, give me a call. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone in KL.